Hello, I'm Luisa, host of Desktime Stories, a podcast about career growth, leadership, and the lessons we learn at work. Today, I'm joined by Lopez, Director of External Affairs and Sustainability at Walnut Valley Water District, located in the city of Walnut in eastern Los Angeles. Lily leads communications, community engagement, workforce development, and sustainability efforts for nearly 100,000 customers in Southern California. Lily is also the founder of Latinas in Water, a community focused on mentorship, visibility, and leadership for Latinas across the water sector. She also serves in national and regional leadership roles with the American Water Works Association, helping elevate young professionals and advance inclusion in the industry. Today, we're talking about service, professionalism, ego, and what work teaches us about becoming the kind of leader people actually trust. Lily, welcome to Desktime Stories.
Thank you so much, Luisa, for having me and for that wonderful introduction. I feel like in leadership and having these conversations, you never get used to other people talking about you. So it's like, oh yeah, I did do that. I am that person. So thank you for that.
Well, congratulations to you. Yeah, I did all that.
Right? I'm like, oh, I am her. Thank you.
Yeah, well, you are. And so, which leads me to ask you this very first question. You have such an impressive title and body of work. Before we get deeper into the questions, can you tell us what you do today, how you got here, so we can understand a little more about your journey?
Yes. So what I do today, you mentioned it a little bit. I serve as the External Affairs and Sustainability Director at Walnut Valley Water District. And what that really looks like is I'm a storyteller for an essential life-sustaining product. A lot of the time, we never think about turning our tap on, taking a shower, and cafecito, national issues like AI data centers, right? People are paying attention again before it was climate change and what's going on in Venice and with the oceans and sea levels rising and lowering. So it's interesting how it all starts at your home and in your community. And so that's really my job, is how do I get people to care about this as a product that we don't value? Because we're getting tap water, cents on the dollar, but yet we'll still go out to purchase water bottles. And typically it's in communities that are low income and people of color. You see in the news, Flint, Michigan, and so you associate it with, well, how can I trust the water that's coming out of these pipes? I provide the business lens to my agency of how we can be strategic and how we can connect with people and make this a real, true story and something to care about. And one of my favorite parts within all of that is our student and workforce development, because the men and women who have been in these roles in this career for decades, they're all deciding to leave at the same time, because once you're in, you're locked in. Let's say you started out as a customer service rep 1, and those people can now find themselves in executive C-suite roles running an entire agency. That's how much fluidity and experience there is for someone who enters it, or they dedicate their time in that and really becoming an expert in that specific field, which is beautiful, because a lot of the time we talk about how do you even find what it is that you enjoy doing that you're going to commit to for years, and for it to really provide you that sense of security. And I think that's what the water industry really does. And so our young students who are looking out at everything that's happening in the world, they don't know that these jobs exist and that these careers exist, right, and that they're good paying jobs and that they provide you benefits and that you don't need much more than a high school diploma to get started. And once you're in, a lot of agencies like mine, Walnut Valley Water District, we offer tuition reimbursement. So we support you in that education journey so that you can decide along the way, where do you want to go to school? What degrees do you actually want to invest in? And for me, being a part of that storytelling as well. So not only is it the value of water and what it holds to everyone, but the people side of why do you want to be a part of this? For me, it's been so important because when I was growing up, all I knew, because I had a single mother household, my grandparents were very involved in taking care of me. They immigrated from Michoacan. They followed that true American dream story that if you work really hard and if you go to school and you do that, you're going to get a good job. What we were lacking was the resources on more information of what does that look like beyond being a doctor, a lawyer, and an engineer. Those were the
That's
kind
right.
of, the options that were provided. And so as I navigated my own journey through that, going to college, I went to UC Santa Barbara and I was majoring in political science because I thought, okay, well, I'll be a lawyer. That's what they're telling me to be. That's what the path is. I'll make them proud. It'll make me happy. And then learning along the way that that wasn't the route that I wanted to take. And it probably took me, I graduated in 2014 and 5 years to find and discover the water industry. So in between that, I earned a ton of great experience. I participated in the fellowship program in the state capitol in California, in Sacramento, working for former Assembly Member Luis Anejo, who was so dynamic and so engaging and providing a young person access to his leadership. He, at the time, served on the Latino Legislative Caucus. He was the chair. So just seeing other Latinos being represented at the highest level in state government and all the different pathways that they took to get there. And then being able to work on legislative policy related to education and water and the environment, that kind of started to really connect things of community and people. And then after that, I worked at 2 different government affair and public relations firms to gain that kind of communications experience, because that's what I learned that I really enjoyed. The people, talking to people, understanding what matters to them, and how can I integrate that with the work that I'm doing, that I'm supporting. And really that's, I think, what elevated my skill set to being prepared for the job.
Thank you. That was very complete because as you're talking and I'm thinking, how does one end up in the water district?
Yes. So I moved back down to Los Angeles after my time in Sacramento. I got homesick. I grew up being that kid that was like, Mama, as soon as I can, I'm out of here. Nunca me vas a mirar aquí en este pueblito.
I'm out.
I wanted more. And then I was like, I miss everyone. I miss my primas. I miss my mom. I miss my grandparents. And, this was around the same time before the pandemic started to happen. So I was living back at home, which I think in our cultural communities, we struggle with because home is always a place that we know is there for us. But the goal is not to live at home, right? Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have to do that. But it was part of the process to figure out what the next steps were. And at the time, the firm that I was working for had multiple clients. And one of them was a water client. We did public relations work for them. And I just remember these people were the ones I just mentioned. They were all in their career 10, 15, 20 years. So I thought, well, that's odd. As a young person, you don't see that often. Everyone that I knew was jumping around trying to figure out what the next move was going to be. No one was talking about, well, I'm going to stay here for X amount of time. So that piqued my interest. And then I started to ask them, what do you actually do besides the project we're working on? And you seem happy. Why are you happy doing this? And that's what really elevated that. Again, asking people questions, getting to know that truly. And something I wish we probably should have been starting to do in high school, right? Is interviewing people. I see some students do that now, but that's really where it comes from, is what are these careers even like, and where do the happy people exist, and what brings them joy? So after that, I had thought, okay, well, maybe I'll give this a try. I asked one of the women that I was working with on a project, how do you get into it? And she's like, oh, well, you look online. They have all these jobs, and there's a website called governmentjobs.com. There's other platforms. There's so many, but that one in particular has all of the government-esque jobs. So anything that's in a public agency, water, transportation, todo. It's all there, all over the nation, how did I not know this? Here's this whole platform at your fingertips wherever you want to move, there's that information. And so I started applying, and I had a lot of no's in the beginning. I was pursuing water and transportation jobs, and I hadn't been interviewing for a while. And so there was a lot of lessons learned, a lot of failures. I knew right away. I was like, that interview didn't go well. I'm not getting that. But I would still ask for feedback when they offered it. Of what could I have expanded on? What could I have done differently? And so when Walnut Valley posted their job application for this role, I read it and I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. It has all of the levels of engaging with the community, leading your own team, being involved at the highest level in the executive capacity with the team. It was looking for someone who had new ideas and a fresh perspective, social media, something that was new really for 8 government agencies. They take longer than everyone else to kind of get into that lens. So I was like, well, I can do this. The only thing that was on there that gave me doubt was that they wanted someone who had 10 plus years working in water. And I remember even showing my mom the application. She's like, I don't know, Mija, like, I don't think you qualify for this. I don't actually think you do. And I was like, well, I'll show you, Mom. I still didn't apply for it. I think that was my mentality was I'm still going to apply for it because I know I can do this. And very typical of our industry, which was something that I think a lot of people in workforce development right now are working on, is I applied and I probably didn't hear back for like 6 months. It can be a large window of time before you hear back. So for anyone who's going through that process now, that's normal. Don't feel like they rejected you already. It takes time for them to do their internal processing. And so when I did get a call from them or an email requesting an interview, that's the time when I really locked in and I prepared. Anyone who I was friends with or had a managerial plus role, my mentors too that I had developed over my time, I asked them if we could do mock interviews. I asked them, when you're on an interview panel, what are the things you're looking for? I prepared my portfolio. I had a binder full of all the different projects that I had worked on to showcase this is what I know how to do. Okay, you're looking for someone who can put fact sheets together. I did that when I was working in the Capitol. You want to look for someone who can do flyers and graphic design. Here's some of the stuff that I've worked on. And so I walked into that interview the most prepared I have been for any other interview because I really wanted it. And so I finally was like, I need to put the intention and the effort that I would for anything else. Within that week, I got invited for a second interview and I was like, okay, I know that I nailed it on my experience, on my expertise in that because I really had developed the communications and the outreach side that they were looking for and the legislative work. So I knew that was nailed down. What I anticipated was giving them any apprehension was at the time I was 27. And so to bring someone in at that level for them being 27, I knew that was a concern because I don't have the years of experience. I don't even have the life experience. At that time, I was like, I'm so experienced. No, I recognize now I didn't even have the life experience that I thought I did. And so I addressed that in the interview because typically they can't ask you those things, right? Your age and et cetera. But I brought that up and I said, I know my age and what that brings is potentially something that causes you to question if I can do this role, but I can guarantee you that I can and that I have the experience and the skill set and the work ethic that I will achieve and go above and beyond what you're looking for in this role. And if there is a point where I'm hitting a wall, that's what you're there for. I will reach out to you as my boss and ask you for guidance. I will be transparent. I'm not going to lie and try and, figure it out. And so after that same day, I got a phone call and I was offered the job. And I was just so ecstatic because I was so proud of myself. I did it. Like that was, when you're really trying and you're getting a no and you're just motivating yourself, you have people telling you different things. that was the one where I was like, okay, this is what I've been working so hard for. So I let it sink in. I enjoyed it. Well, and then the next week I was like, what did I do? Am I really ready for this? How am I going to prepare? How can I go in there showing that I'm going to back up everything that I sold them on? And I remember probably a year or two later, a coworker had asked me that she asked my boss, what was it about Lily that made you give her the job, or that why did you choose her out of everyone else? Because they had been looking, they interviewed other people, they were going to onboard someone else. It didn't work out. So I was like, it's not like I was the top pick, you know? But he told her, well, she sold herself. She really believed in what her capabilities were, and she came prepared. And he would always say, he became my greatest mentor, my greatest advocate. I enjoyed working with him for 5 years before he retired. It was literally, I think, the perfect person that could have welcomed me into the water industry and the knowledge that he had. And he would always say, you can't prepare for interviews. You don't know what they're going to ask you. I was like, you can prepare. You can always prepare. The lack of preparing is buying into that. I was like, the way you talk about yourself and how you can demonstrate and be honest and address whatever they might be worried about, that's how you prepare. And so that's how I found myself into the role that I'm into today. And when I got the opportunity, I haven't wasted a single second of it, truly. The last, it'll be 7 years now at my agency. The last 7 years, I haven't wasted one single moment to, one, prove myself and to show them, yes, everything that I said I was going to do, I did. I went above and beyond. You got to talk and walk the walk, right? You got to do both of those. But I leaned more into the development of my team members. So it wasn't about me and me shining. It was about, I want and I need a team who can shine with me, and to show them, you growing and thriving is not a threat to me. And where I am today with my team members, I've been working with 2 of them for the 7 years in this role, and another team member who she promoted over from a different department. So she's been working with us for, it'll be 2 years now. I get so much more fulfillment out of my role, seeing how they have grown and how they are so strong in their own right, and that they're being recognized with their own accolades that they deserve, doing the type of work that we do, and giving that energy where I can in our workforce, developing professional development programs for young professionals, which led me to have the position on the board that I do today with the American Water Works Association. It was a series of events of, I truly believe that when people believe in you and give you chances, you have a duty to give back in some way. And that might be my own moral and value system. But I truly believe that it brings you more by giving to others and creating opportunities. So if someone holds the door open for me, I'm going to make a bigger door for somebody and people to come in through that after me. I don't believe in gatekeeping. I don't believe in, if someone will ask me, like, how can I do this? How do I find a mentor? Can you mentor me? I will always say yes. And then we'll go through that process. And that's been the true joy, is creating a community within my water industry, my professional industry. And that's led me to developing and creating Latinas in Water, which is now a nonprofit dedicated to creating community, uplifting, and providing leadership opportunities, motivation for Latinas in the water industry throughout the United States. Truly, it started in California. I'm based in California, but it's already started to grow and create connections with mujeres outside of my Southern California location. And I'm really excited for what the future has to hold in that regard.
I just want to say thank you very much, because frankly, what you just said there towards the end about somebody opened the door for you and you want to create a bigger door for others, and having that space to grow and develop others and be a good leader and demonstrate that you believe in them, that is the goal of this podcast. And so it fills me with joy to hear somebody that is doing all the things, but more importantly, that is sharing with all of us the benefits of doing that, how to do that, so that we can also create those spaces for other people and create happier workplaces everywhere. So thank you very much, Lily, for all those contributions. I just had to say that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, so going back, some people are really good at knowing what they want to do and they don't need to go to school, and I envy them tremendously. But I was not one of them. But, anyways, in your case, you went to school, graduated, then you identified your strengths. So you really understood that you wanted to work with people and you liked communications. So, first, identify your strengths. Second, focus on honing in those skills. Then feel that you kept your eyes open through the different jobs that you were having. And then you were curious. So open mind and curiosity, that's where the interviewing came in, which I thought was brilliant. And I love the question, where do happy people live? Then a key piece that you said is you started applying for jobs. And so you got a lot of no's. And so the first question here, how do you not get demotivated or depressed when you're getting all these no's? And how do you know? Because you mentioned it. I knew that I didn't do well in that interview. What were those signs?
At that time, and I will say everyone has their own way, but for me, it was really tapping into my spirituality at that time. That's probably one of those things. I grew up Catholic. I grew up very traditional in that sense. And it was kind of like, I need you now, right? I need help. And I'm not doing it on my own. I need some other worldly support, universe, God, and just telling myself it'll work out or that's okay. It wasn't enough for me personally. And there was the other side of it is that I grew up in a very loving home in their own unique way, but also there is no room for you to give up type of thing. I remember one time my grandma had told me in Spanish, ¿Cuándo vas a ser alguien? And that made me so mad. And there's nothing that motivates me more than proving people wrong. Truly.
That was her question. When are you going to be somebody?
Yeah, when are you going to be somebody? Because she was comparing me like, oh, your friend here, she's got this job. And me over here, she's doing this. And so
tough love.
Yeah, it was super tough. But that woman would do anything for me.
She was lighting your fire.
Yes, that fire was to prove everything that they did was worth it. What they sacrificed for me, which I can never be thankful enough. I'll never truly understand their own experiences that they lived through. I had to show that, yes, I was going to put the work in. So leaning into my spirituality and letting that anger, stress, anxiety, letting those two meld together to not give up. That was how I didn't get depressed.
I think that's so skillful. I applaud that because it is transforming what one might label negative, right? The anxiety, the stress, the anger, the sadness into fuel to propel you forward. And I love the mentality of giving up is not an option, in essence. That's what Grandma was saying. Go and do it. That's very helpful. And then the other piece was, when you didn't have a good interview, was it that you didn't prepare enough or you were just learning with each one what to do differently? And were they giving you valuable feedback?
I'll start with the feedback. That's one thing I wish people would be a little bit more honest in is I would get the typical email responses of, oh, you could prepare more by looking at our website or XYZ. Now, if I get that question of the panelists of what could I have done differently, I'll be very honest. I will give that concrete advice because I was getting a lot of the cookie cutter, so it wasn't super helpful. One of my skill sets is I can read a room. I can tell by someone's body language, by their facial remarks, by how they're engaging in a conversation. And it might sound so silly, but if they weren't laughing at a joke that I made, I was like, oh, they couldn't even give me the courtesy laugh. Like, this isn't going good. There's an obvious lack of personality connection, which, let's be honest, that is a big deal when you are interviewing. Ideally, the people that are interviewing you are going to be the ones that are working with you. And that's why they host interviews because, on paper, you look great, but let's see how you are in person. So I could tell by the lack of engagement, if they're not really giving you eye contact, if it went really quick, like, oh, okay, we got through all these questions really fast, that was all those signs to me like, oh, that didn't go well. And yeah, there were some when they would ask the question and I didn't know how to answer it. I made something up at the spot. A lot of the ones that would throw me off was like, well, show me examples of how you did that. And I think I wasn't being honest in the answer. So I didn't have an example. I was just telling them what I thought they wanted to hear. So those were the signals. I was like, oh, I'm not getting it.
Well, how wonderful, because you learn from those. So once you have honed in your skills and done all the things, being curious, asking questions, then you finally find the one and then you prepare and you get mentors and you do mock interviews and you put together a portfolio. That to me is very sophisticated. So my question to you, Lily, is how did you know to do all those things?
That's a really good question. I remember people would always offer, your mentors, people that you meet, they say, if you need anything, let me know. How often do you actually take anyone up on that? And so that's when
Yes.
I was like, well, these people have said that they'll help me. Why aren't I reaching out? And so that's when I did. And some of it were friends who are more successful in our timelines. So I asked them, and no one will be more honest to you than people that care about you. So when I would do those mock interviews, they would be very honest on, this is how you're answering the question, but that's not what somebody wants to hear. Or you should highlight this and not that. Even just how are you dressing? How are you preparing? And I think the portfolio I had seen by other people applying in different spaces that they would bring their portfolio. And I was like, oh, that's really smart. Like, why didn't I think of that myself?
hmm It really sets people apart when
Yeah.
somebody brings in a portfolio like,
Yeah.
they really thought this through. And
Right.
sometimes, I mean, in my experience, sometimes people don't even go through the whole thing in a lot of detail, but it is quite impressive. Of course, you want to do something of quality in case there is a person that actually comes it through in detail.
Yeah.
But that is really good. Mentors, real quick, you make it sound like, oh, people have mentors. I don't think that people necessarily think to get mentors. Also, how do you get a mentor?
Yeah.
Elaborate.
Every job that I had from that time frame, I did make it an effort to build relationships with the people I worked with. So yeah, maybe they didn't even have the fancy title. They weren't the manager, or the whatever, or the senior. But even the colleagues that are one level above you, but have been working in a little bit, they offered a lot of experience. And going back to the curiosity that I had, I would make it a practice of sitting with someone when they had time in the office and just asking, like, what do you do? How did you get there? And I remember one of the communications director when I worked in the state capitol at the time, he took the time to explain to me the difference between marketing, advertising, and communications and how he learned it. And I didn't know the differences at that time. So that was so helpful to have that information. And it gave me then an edge as I'm pursuing this journey. So a lot of it wasn't formal. I wasn't saying, oh, you are my mentor, or will you be my mentor? But it was spending time with colleagues and asking them, can I go to lunch with you? Can I grab a coffee? Or can I ask you about XYZ? Or we're working on this project together. How do you do it? I had no embarrassment. People knowing she doesn't know what she's doing. Well, yeah, I don't. So I need you to help me teach me how to do this. Because this was the first time I'm doing this kind of work. And then friendships came out of some of those relationships. And when you have those friendships, it's like you can always lean back on that. You can always be a good friend and lean back. And I think people are willing to help you. There were some opportunities. There was professional associations. And so they would host a formal mentorship program, right? You fill out a form, you get matched with someone. I've had good experiences and so experiences with those. Sometimes you get matched with someone, it doesn't really produce in anything helpful. And then other times it's, oh, wow, like I got matched with someone who was very open in sharing experiences and lent a lot of information. So I did that as well for the formal mentorship part. And usually it's for a designated time frame, which I think is helpful. The person who is offering you advice is making themselves available for a quarter or a year. Then you take advantage and whatever's happening or whatever skill sets you're trying to grow, use that relationship to really get the information that you're seeking.
Yeah. I love that you tackle both the formal and the informal, but frankly, it sounds like you got a lot from the informal ones. But I just have to say, the things that I'm hearing that I think really have set you apart, that I think all of us could embrace and it would serve us well, is that you had initiative, you had curiosity, but most importantly to me, humility. You were never too proud to ask, you were never too proud to get feedback. Yeah, sometimes it's uncomfortable or sometimes it hurts, eh, sometimes it might make you upset, but you still ask for it and then you learn from it.
Yeah.
Is that just something that naturally comes to you, the humility, or was it recommended to you or
Yeah.
emulate from somebody else?
I think that came from my family background was work really hard and your work will be recognized. Don't cause issues, don't do this, which yeah, I think to a certain extent that is helpful. I am very humble in the sense of I'm not afraid to be honest that I don't know how to do something. But when I do know how to do something really well, you better believe I'm that girl. I will
Good.
celebrate and do that. So that's just being a dynamic person of we can't
Mm.
all be good at everything. If that was the case, then how would there be healthy competition? How would we have different services being provided by different people? So whatever you're really good at, be proud, we celebrate that, let people know I can do these things for you, or you're looking for someone who can do that. Well, this is me. If someone were to say, oh, I'm looking for someone who's really great with data and mapping and charting. No, that's not me. I'm not going to pretend. There was a time early on when I was applying for anything. I was like, yeah, I can do that. No, no, I cannot. I will be honest. No, I am not your girl for your Excel sheets and for this and that. Do I like them? Yes. But I will
Mhm.
not be the one to create them for you. That's not my skill set. Do you need
Yeah.
somebody to write you a strategic plan and talking points and
Mm,
identify gaps in how you're relating to your audience and for year 1, 3, and 5? Yes, that's me. That's what I can
mm,
provide. So just knowing and being comfortable with your true skill set. And if you really want to learn something that you don't, then you have to put in the time and like I learned that. One of the things I don't love doing, but I can is grant writing. Okay, I had to make sure that I really knew how to write technical, how
mm.
to prepare a packet exactly how they're looking for it. So I guess I can do it. I don't love it. And it's just being aware of your skill set and going back to that.
Yeah.
Well, what makes you happy? Doing the work that you're proud of or doing work that you're like, I can do it, so I might as well.
Yeah, that's just it. Even if you had gotten those jobs where you were saying that you could do the thing, but that you really weren't great at it, you would have not been happy and you would not
No.
be there probably. Or if you were, you would be miserable. But I
Yeah.
like your call out and the balance between humility and confidence, because you think that's what you mentioned, that why you got the job. It's not super common that a 27-year-old will get a director job in a public agency.
It's not.
So it is quite remarkable. And so I'm very thankful to you because I was in my 40s when I got my first director job. I wish somebody would have given me some of these pointers sooner because
Right?
I know as we have talked about the humility and the confidence and all the things, I wanted to hear your thoughts about what has your career taught you about ego?
Yes. I'm glad we're getting into this. So much of what I've talked about is speaking up, advocating, preparing, confidence, showing that. The thing that I've learned the most is that the gold is listening, truly active listening, not just sitting there and, okay, they're saying something one ear out the other. If somebody asked you to repeat it, you wouldn't be able to. No, true active listening. What is this person saying? In what tone are they saying it? Did their body and their face have a reaction when they were saying it? Where's their eye contact? Did they hesitate and maybe leave something out? Taking notes down as they're saying it. Do I have a question? Write it down. Don't interrupt them. Truly spending time and listening and asking them, I'm hearing that you said this, or I'm interpreting it this way. Is that what you mean? That has helped me so much in my career in understanding the material, because this was all new to me. I hadn't worked in this profession before. But then again, creating those relationships, because typically I have to listen a little bit harder with people who aren't like me and who maybe I don't naturally gravitate towards. We all do that. We all gravitate towards people we feel comfortable around. So I have to make a little bit more of an effort with the introvert or the engineer because we don't speak the same professional language. Or someone who's overly direct and blunt. I had to learn how to navigate those conversations. So it's the active listening, the understanding, the building relationship, and then to add it all of these three things, the coalition building, right? And you understand each other now. I'm there asking questions, they're listening. Great. Okay, that's solid. Now we can help each other. We work in different departments, we have different priorities, but we are coming together as one team to push the mission of our agency that we both work for. Now let's build a coalition. So all the people I manage and all the people you manage, they all understand and feel that they have ownership over these initiatives that we're trying to launch. That's what I learned with my ego the most was, I guess I knew what I was doing and I was confident in it, but there were times where I was running people over or I was going way too fast, especially in an industry that they're not used to. You can go in private, you can go in tech. They want to move fast. They want to be competitive and cutting edge. That's not what you're going to always find in public sector jobs. What they know is safety, security, stability. You don't mess around with people's water. That is the highest priority. So why change something if it's been working for the last 20 years? So my approach when I was like, no, but I know I'm right. And I know this will benefit us and it'll make your life easier. It was creating more of an uphill for me because my ego was getting involved. Once I was in that, I got advice from a current manager that worked on a different team. We had a great relationship. We relate really well, but he was like, you're missing out on the ownership. You're leaving people out of the decisions that you make. And so why would we want to help you in that? And I was like, you're right. Why am I not asking them the questions? Because a lot of the time my initiatives impacted them or impacted their workforce because I was taking them away from the traditional work to go to a professional development workshop instead, or to plug them into some type of industry event. So that was putting ego aside. Was, you're right. Other people need to be a part of this movement with me to make it even more successful.
That is a tough lesson to learn, isn't it?
Yes.
Because maybe you were right. And that doesn't mean that you have thought of all the things. The first time that I was ever told that I do not listen to understand, I listen to respond. It was so shocking, but it's similar to what you're saying. That the active listening part is really trying to get in all that information, pondering, not interrupting.
Yeah.
And that way your initiative will have more traction and you will be able to move a thing along.
Yeah. And I really started to see the change in me when I didn't need to be the person in the room who was talking the most and steering the conversation. I was the person who was fully catching everything. And then someone else would say, well, what do you think? And I could say, well, now that I've heard this person and this other person's concerns, I came in thinking this, but actually I think the best solution is bringing all of that together. I would offer my insight, but bring in what I wasn't thinking of. And when I have certain programs or ideas, I will bring it to the person that I know will poke the holes in it. So I bring it to them. That way, when I want to take it to the meeting where everyone's at, it's already been poked through. And so it's not going to fall apart in front of everyone. I'll be like, okay, let's just get this out of the way now. Tell me what you think is missing or you think won't work. Or timing, what is it? What is it? Resources, manpower, whatever it is, what is missing? So that way, let's just address it.
See, you know how people say that sometimes there's a meeting after the meeting?
Yeah.
It sounds to me like you were having a meeting before the meeting to anticipate all the things. And it goes back to the preparation. I love how there's a continuity on all the things that you share. Whoever gave you that feedback, I feel that maybe sometimes people want to give feedback, but they won't give it to somebody that they know is close to feedback. And so your openness, even if you were acting a certain way, they knew that you were coachable, whether they're a peer or somebody's coaching up to
Right.
you. Regardless, they know that you will listen. And so you become a better and stronger leader. One related question that I have for you, when you think about people who are respected at work, even when they are not the loudest person in the room, what attitude or quality do you think they usually have?
It's humility. Like truly the people that I admire the most, and I think others, is that humility. And it'll come up in a different way. But even my mentor, he was the general manager for several years. He spent decades serving our agency. He would say, I'm not the smartest person in the room. And I was like, you are. We all know you are, actually. And I've seen that with different leaders who are humble enough to just say, I'm not going to figure this one out on my own. I want you to do it. I want us to do that. I truly see the people who need to be the loudest and be talking and to have the last word. Those are not the leaders that I think truly inspire and motivate and push momentum forward.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, Lily, when someone is very passionate about their work, I know that sometimes they can step on toes or rub people the wrong way, and then they end up being in a worse off situation. So I don't know if you have any advice or how you have dealt with situations when passion is high and it's not overwhelm people.
I really think that's where the emotional intelligence comes in. So if you know you're a passionate person, you should probably read an emotional intelligence book, listen to a podcast, go to a workshop, because again, you can tell when someone is as interested and they're like, yeah, tell me more, tell them more. But also when people are getting the glossy eyes and are looking for a way out, you're not getting them to understand and appreciate what it is that you're trying to tell them. You've lost them. And then that's typically worse because now you're like, oh, that person, they're too much. Another thing I think too is you should be able to share information in a way that someone thinks it's valuable to them. Because I know what I have to share isn't going to be found valuable to everyone. It might really only resonate with a few people. But if I'm pushing a project and I need that buy-in, then I need to find a way to channel that message in a way they think it's valuable. So that's where that kind of communications and business strategy comes into play is human behavior, what's important to them.
Find that balance. All right, Lily. So I want to learn more about Latinas in Water. What is it? Who can join? What is it all about?
So Latinas in Water is a nonprofit. It's myself based in Southern California and slowly growing throughout the nation. When I was attending a water industry event, I was looking around and I've always thought this. I was really shocked when I started working there of how many Latinos work in this industry. The large majority of them are on the field, but there's a lot of women who are in the administrative offices, engineering positions, so many different avenues. And I will look around and be like, well, she's Latina, she's Latina. There's the Women in Water associations. There's the Black Water Professionals associations. So I just thought organically somebody would have created a Latinos or Latina association. I just assumed that someone would have done it. And so I was with a group of women and I asked them, if we had something like this, would you find it valuable? And they were like, yeah. And they're like, you do it. And I was like, okay, pues, I will. I'll do it. I'll figure it out. And I think by then I had already established myself in my regional agency and I was participating at the board level, at the national level. So I did create a network where my reputation is I do produce high quality caliber experiences, events, programs, my work ethic has followed me. So I gathered a few women that I've met that work in different agencies throughout Southern California. And I hosted a quick, I want to know, if I put this together, what do you want it to look like? Do we only create a space for Latinas? If it's just for women, is it only Latinas? Is it allies? Is it, XYZ? What type of events, or what is the experience? What is the impact that we would want people to feel coming to an event? Or what does this look like? And so I got people's feedback, and they said, yes, I want a space for women only. We want a space for Latinas where we can just feel comfortable and be around people that we feel understand us culturally, dynamically. We don't have to code switch or not be able to speak in Spanglish. And we want to see more women, more Latinas in the executive and C-suite position. Because as I've launched Latinas in Water, actually, I've met so many women that are in these very technical fields, and they are managers, directors, but there is a lack of Latina representation at the highest level, whether it's the general manager or president of whatever company. And so that's a key thing too. How do we advance? There's a desire for mentorship. So based off of that information, based off of feedback, I hosted our first event in March in the Los Angeles region. That's Latina History Week. The Hope Foundation, they work with the city, and that's what it's recognized as. So I thought that's a great time, part of Women's History Month as well, to host our first event. And I was so happy to see almost 100 women show up. We hosted it at my utility at Walnut Valley Water District. We had a brand new building at that time, so it was perfect. We had a coffee vendor who, shout out to Debbie Beans Coffee, because they provided that in kind, because they're women. She had said, I want my daughters, Latinas, I want my daughters to see other women in this career and to see, experience professionalism and all that. And I was like, fantastic. We had a keynote speaker who talked about being authentic and believing in yourself, going for it, whatever that is, go for it and help other women. If you don't want that for yourself, don't drag anyone down. That was her key message, to be yourself and to not be afraid of going for the things you want. And then we tied it as well into an activity in where we put together gift bags for a local community college that has a program for students who were in the foster care system. So a key thing with Latinas in Water is that our programming will have events that are dynamic, that focus on leadership development. And that can look like anything from how do you speak with confidence to how do you find who you are and express that, as well as some type of philanthropy or giving back to the community, communities, different programs, because I truly think as a community and culturally, that's who we are, that we give back in other ways. Most of the women who have come to events, they want to give back. They're like, how can I help you? Or they're working in other programs that there's opportunities to collaborate. And so right now I'm working on various events that we have going on. There's networking professional events that coincide with large conferences. There's going to be a panel of what's called Poderosa, Latina Leaders in Water on National Latina Day. And I'm hosting a wellness festival in March in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month to really talk about, yes, how do we perform and execute, but also take care of ourselves and have fun with each other. I'm working on merchandise so that you can represent Latinas in Water, and then just really building a community for women to find one another. I recognized, and I shared this in the first event to give a background of why I started it. To say I was lucky that I had a really great mentor who he didn't hold back anything to knowledge-wise, experience-wise, support. And I recognize now that a lot of women and people in the industry, Latinas especially, don't have that. They don't have that person in the place that they work. They haven't had mentors. Maybe they don't have people they can really just let their hair down with and be themselves, or are navigating where they want their careers to go in life. And so I feel like I'm at a point in my career where I would really like to dedicate my time to be able to help and develop that, to give back in the way that I've been given, because I do think it's a gift. I'm very lucky and fortunate. And I think about that all the time of how happy I am in my career. I know that's unique and I want to help as many people as I can. And I think this is the way I've found that calling and the way to do that. And again, it's bringing people together. Nothing makes me happier than being with a bunch of women in their room and sharing and laughing and asking those questions. I've heard of motherhood. They're talking about motherhood. They're talking about careers. They're talking about, do you know someone who works here? I'm going to apply for a job. The kind of thing I'm seeing develop organically from that. And looking into 2027 and beyond, I'm looking at how do we formalize it a little bit more, create a membership platform. So I'm not always asking people for money and donation to host these events. And I'm excited to bring that to the women in our water industry so that they know there's a place for them. They will be provided with resources and experiences, and that they have an opportunity to help me develop that with time as well.
Well, that is amazing. I guess I'm not surprised to hear you say that you are doing all these things based on our conversation thus far, with your initiative, with your passion to give back, with your clear communication and organizational skills that are really outstanding. So I wish you all the best in that initiative. Where can people find Latinas in Water?
Right now, they can find us on LinkedIn, typing in Latinas in Water, as well as on Instagram, Latinas in Water. Again, very early on in building everything out. So eventually a website, but right now it's LinkedIn and Instagram.
Fantastic. Lily, it has been such a pleasure talking to you. I am going to ask you one last question. So if you were to leave a note on somebody's desk to cheer them up, what would it say?
Oh, I love that. I think I would write down, "You're doing your best. I believe in you." In a little heart. Yeah.
Well, I know that if I saw that on my desk, it would make my day. So maybe I'll just write down that for myself and
Yeah, right. Sometimes we don't even tell ourselves that.
I know. Well, thank you for joining us today and sharing your wonderful stories. We hope you will join us again soon to continue to inspire us and help us grow and move forward together. And thank you, everyone, for listening to Desktime Stories. I hope today's conversation gave you an idea, one lesson, one question you can carry into your own work and life. If it helped you, share with someone who may need it too. You can find Desktime Stories on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcasts. Until next story.